Hello everybody and welcome on my journey to watch 500 films in 1 year. The next 8 films I watched were all of the movies in the original Halloween franchise. Halloween is about Michael Myers, who sits in a mental health facility for 15 years after he stabs his sister to death, before escaping and returning to his hometown, Haddonfield, to kill again. Halloween 2 picks up from the end of the first movie and joins Sheriff Brackett and Dr. Loomis as they hunt for Michael Myers. Meanwhile, Laurie, a traumatised survivor, is rushed to hospital, but Michael Myers is not far behind her. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, is about a doctor trying to uncover a plot by a Halloween costume company, Silver Shamrock, and its nefarious owner, Conal Cochran. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, is set 10 years after the original Haddonfield massacre, and sees him return to the place he was raised to stalk his 7-year-old niece on Halloween. Halloween 5 takes place a year after the previous movie, and confirms that Michael is still hell-bent on killing all of his surviving family members. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, takes place 6 years after Michael last terrorised Haddonfield, and follows his movements as he and a mysterious cult hatch a dangerous plan which could have dire consequences. Halloween H2O, 20 years later, centres on a remote and elite private school in Florida, which is run by a head teacher named Kerry Tate. As links to Michael Myers and the massacres in Haddonfield become apparent, the occupants of the school find themselves in a fight for survival when Michael comes to call. Halloween Resurrection sees Michael Myers' old derelict childhood house being used for a live internet horror show, and when deaths start occurring, the viewers start to realise that Michael may not be as dead as they think. Like all good franchises, Halloween can boast a range of movies, 8 in total, not counting the Rob Zombie reboots, a number of novels, online stories and comic books, and a host of merchandise, including a video game released in 1983 for the Atari 2600. It all started with writer-director John Carpenter, who co-wrote the screenplay with Deborah Hill back in 1978. It can't be argued that the iconic theme tune, composed by John Carpenter himself, will forever be synonymous with Halloween. I'm actually going to see his live show, Release the Bats, at the Troxy in London, and I can't wait to hear that piece of music played by the master. The film itself is an absolute classic. Donald Pleasance is incredible as Dr. Loomis, and I loved the point of view camera angles used at the start of the movie. These really suck you into the story. The plot is simple but effective, and it isn't difficult to see why the blank face of Michael Myers struck such fear into his audience. It's incredible to think that the mask originally depicted William Shatner, but the prop department spray-painted it white, teased out the hair, and reshaped the eye holes to make it altogether more menacing. The sequel is a less terrifying offering, but I enjoyed the fact that it picked up directly after the events of Halloween. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill returned as writers, but Rick Rosenthal directed the movie. He has worked mainly in TV, and I think this shows in terms of his style. The movie focuses on the main character's history, which deepens the plot, and I enjoyed how Michael Myers was portrayed more as a formidable psychopath than a troubled human being who has the potential to change. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch completely changes the direction of the franchise, and is the first movie not to feature Michael Myers. John Carpenter's plan as producer was to make a new movie each year, telling a different Halloween-related story, but changed his mind when this movie underperformed at the box office. I can't say I enjoyed this part of the franchise. The main character was not very likeable. The lead female was wooden. The horror was largely tame, with the exception of a couple of scenes, and the ending was frankly awful. About the only decent elements of the movie were the sound effects and the sinister, unspeaking men in suits. John Carpenter wrote a treatment for the fourth film in the franchise, which examined the effect the events of the first two films had on the Haddonfield citizens. This concept was rejected by the producers, who wanted a more traditional slasher, at which point Carpenter left the film, making this the first in the series to have no participation from him. The end result seemed less polished than the original movie, even though the budget was 15 times the amount allocated to Halloween, which was made for a modest $325,000. But I still found it to be a solid and fairly thrilling horror movie. Halloween 5, often referred to as the revenge of Michael Myers on marketing posters, is more far-fetched than the other movies, but Danielle Harris is very good as the returning character Jamie Lloyd, who was actually named after Jamie Lee Curtis. To be honest, I don't think the franchise would have suffered if this and Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers were never made. The sixth movie went in a direction I felt needed to be developed further, and that there was more gore but far less scares. But it was good fun to see Paul Rudd in his horror film debut. Halloween H2O, 20 years later, is my second favourite movie in the franchise, and that is mostly thanks to Steve Miner, who does an excellent job directing the film. It is a fantastic blend of tongue-in-cheek humour and homages to the original movies, as well as to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which was apparently inspiration for Halloween. Janet Leigh, Jamie Lee Curtis's mum, even plays a small role, and fragments of the Psycho score can be heard playing in some scenes. Michael Myers is his usual slow-moving but terrifying self, and LL Cool J provides brilliant comic relief as the security guard, who is also moonlighting as a romance writer. Halloween Resurrection probably never should have been made, as the previous movie was so neatly finalised, but Larry Brand, the writer, should be commended for the imaginative way in which he brought Michael Myers back. I liked the way the franchise was modernised, using reality TV as part of the storyline, but the pacing was poor, and I didn't feel as if the spirit of the movie was in keeping with the other films in the series. All in all, I would say that I really love this franchise, but some movies are better than others. I therefore give Halloween 3 Season of the Witch a big thumbs down, Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers and Halloween Resurrection a mini thumbs down, and the rest of the movies a thumbs up, apart from Halloween and Halloween H2O 20 years later, which get a super big thumbs up. Please join me for my next review, where I'll be talking about The Other Side of the Door, co-written and directed by Johannes Roberts. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and I hope to hear from you soon.